We can make an impact on this if we do our part. We don't need to be out picketing the streets and going to our congressmen nonstop and all that, but going online, making a comment about something that you know a lot about and is going to impact you is, I think, a very good use of your time. If you look from 2021 to 2025, there were 77 5-star rated plans across the country. And now this year, there's only 5. That's crazy. CMS is highly unlikely to review calls past the 6-year mark. Yes, highly unlikely to review calls after 2, 3, 1 year even. If you're a big call center, you got a bunch of agents on the phone, you're recording those calls, you've got a S3 bucket somewhere, something that you're storing everything in. But if you're just an individual producer on your own, this is a hard thing to maintain and be compliant on. Hey guys, Curt Graham from Elite Insurance Partners back again for another Inside the Industry. And today I'm talking about the proposed rule changes for 2027 and how it could impact us, how we can impact it, the positives, some of the things that I don't think are all that great, but hey, they're changes. I think for the most part, it's a move in the right direction. It is 465 pages, so I made a little slideshow here of the things that I thought were important. You can jump in and you can go to this actual link, which is going to be linked below. You can download the entire report yourself, review it. I definitely think it's important to read and comment because the comment period ends January 26th, relatively short. When I looked at this, there's only 4 people that had made comments so far. So we can make an impact on this if we do our part, right? We don't need to be out picketing the streets and going to our congressmen nonstop and all that, but going online, making a comment about something that you know a lot about and is going to impact you, frankly, is, I think, a very good use of your time. So let's get to it and make the comments where we can find things that are valuable. If we just click in here, removing the 48-hour scope appointment rule, I think everybody will love this. So comment support for that. Okay, CMS is proposing to eliminate the 48-hour waiting period required with the SOA completion and a personal marketing appointment, as well as eliminate the 2 corresponding exceptions to the 48-hour scope of appointment rule. Under this proposal, plans agents will no longer be required to wait 48 hours between obtaining a scope of appointment and speaking with a beneficiary about planned products. Now, that being said, you can still do it the old way. Beneficiaries are able to fill out the SOA just prior to discussing planned products, or they may fill out the scope of appointment for future personal marketing appointments. So, hey, if you want to do it the old school way, you can still do that, but we no longer have to worry about it. You can do it right before you actually start talking about a plan with a client. I know for me, this was always a confusing thing with clients when back in 2010, I'd go to people's houses and hand them this form and say, hey, sign here, initial here. And they'd be like, all right, let's talk about the plan. And I'd be like, nope, got to wait 2 days. See you in 2 days. And they'd be like, what? You're here. Let's just get it done. And they were confused by it. It didn't even really make sense to me. I mean, it's all we're doing is talking about plans, what they're going to review that and change their mind about talking about the type of insurance that they want. It's always been foolish. It's gone up and down, up and down. Hopefully this is the last time and they get rid of the 48-hour scope of appointment rule. Who does CMS think it benefits? Well, they think all parties will benefit, especially beneficiaries. For example, beneficiaries who live far away or those who have transportation issues who sign an SOA with a plan, agent, or broker when attending a marketing event would be required to come back no less than 48 hours later to meet with that agent or broker. It's true. I mean, you meet with somebody, they want to talk about something, and then you gotta know we have to talk 2 days later. Now maybe they can't get back to you, maybe they're going out of town, all sorts of things that would happen that would cause this to just absolutely tear apart the regular flow of a appointment and a sale. What else are they doing? They're removing the 12-hour delay between educational and marketing events. This also makes a whole bunch of sense. Eliminate the 12-hour requirement so that marketing events can take place directly following and at the same location as an educational event. This proposal permitting marketing events to follow educational events, provided there's an appropriate break. So that is one of the little caveats here. You have to state that if the marketing event is directly following an educational event, plans, agents, and brokers would be required to notify beneficiaries that the educational event is ending and the marketing event is over. So just by simply saying, hey, it's over, plans need to give sufficient opportunity for them to leave the educational event. So you can't just like, it's over and go right into it. You have to make an announcement. Okay, you're allowed to leave, but hey, we're going to start talking about plan benefits. I know I just talked to you about all of how Medicare works, and now you want to know how to solve some of these problems. Hey, we can jump right in, and I'm going to be going over some of those solutions now. But if you don't want to stick around, you can leave. And oh, if you do want to talk about it later because you don't have time, sign the scope appointment form here. Take my business card, and we can get in touch with one another and have a follow up. Or do it right afterwards. So I think that is hugely valuable. Makes all the sense in the world. Now you're allowed to collect scope appointments at educational events. Okay. And the collection of scope appointment form is not a sales or marketing activity, but it's making an agreement regarding the type of products that will be discussed for a personal marketing appointment. That's always seemed to be the case. I mean, the scope appointment form is a generic form that doesn't have any product information on it. It's crazy that was ever a hang-up. And so I'm happy to see that go away, and it makes it easier if that person does need to leave because they don't have time for the marketing event. Now you can get them to sign a scope. You can follow up with them, and you can have an appointment at a later date. That's great. Again, what are the benefits of this? By permitting plans, agents, and brokers to obtain SOA forms at educational events, the burden on beneficiaries, plans, agents, and brokers would be reduced for all parties and conveniently schedule personal marketing appointments to discuss plan options in the future instead of having to wait until after the educational event ends to schedule an appointment. If plans, agents, and brokers are allowed to collect SOAs at educational events, it decreases the likelihood that beneficiaries will face undue burden. It seems like that's a big focus, is the undue burden on potential challenges of reconnecting with the agent or having to travel back to a venue. It's true, not all seniors have the ability to drive. They get free transportation sometimes, or they had to have somebody drop them off. And so this makes all the sense in the world. Glad that they're moving in this direction, especially if you can go right into, after the educational event, into the marketing event. I mean, big benefits here. The reduce of sales call recordings for 6 years, kind of. I say kind of because, yeah, it reduces the actual, recordings of marketing and sales calls, but you have to maintain enrollment records for 10 years. So it's just the marketing and sales part that is only going down to 6 years. It's not the actual enrollment itself that's going down. That's still a 10-year burden. Or 10-year burden. Well, we'll go into that. Why the reduction? Well, because audio files are large and take up substantial amount of storage data, especially when record retention requirement to store these calls is for 10 years. CMS is highly unlikely to review calls past the 6-year mark. Yes, highly unlikely to review calls after 2, 3 years, or 1 year even. I mean, a lot of clients change their plans from 1 year to the next. What's the purpose of keeping the call after they've been on 3 different plans? I think this one can go down even further. The amount of calls that people have to record, the technology in place, it is undue burden, especially for, the independent guys out there. If you're a big call center, you got, a bunch of agents on the phone, you're recording those calls, you've got a S3 bucket somewhere, something that you're storing everything in. You can get it down. But if you're just an individual producer on your own, this is a hard thing to maintain and be compliant on. And so I think this reduction can go even further. That would be my comment on it. Hey, thanks for reducing it a little bit, but let's reduce it even more. 10 years on a actual sales call or sales enrollment is still a long time. All the other calls, why even have every one of those calls having to be maintained? I think this one, they could go a little bit further. And that's the comment that I'm going to be leaving on this portion as well. TPMO disclaimer, it doesn't have to be in the first minute anymore. It makes all the sense in the world. That doesn't make any sense in terms of having a regular conversation with someone. Is, hi, my name's Curt. You were interested and you've looked for something, or they call you and they go, hey, I want to find out about this. And I go, wait a second. I got to give you a disclaimer within the first 1 minute of my call, or I'm breaking compliance issues. It was always unnatural. And so the fact that we had to do it right at the beginning, makes no sense. Essentially, what you can do is you can have a conversation, you can fact find with the person, and then right before you're going into the actual plan benefits and the sales part of the call, then you do a disclaimer with that member. I think that's huge. The other one, removing SHIP as an information source is also big. I mean, they talk a little bit more. I don't think I highlight it. They talk about how SHIP basically wasn't a very good, reliable source. They haven't been. I actually have several SHIP representatives that have become my clients because after I met with them, I go over everything. I'm like, wow, I didn't even realize that. And I've gone through all these formal trainings. It's true. If your job is not really to, if you're just a volunteer, how serious do you take it? And so I think that's a big one. I don't think it really affected us all that much. You still have to talk about Medicare.gov as well as 1-800-Medicare. But removing SHIP as a source, it does get rid of some, confusion of what SHIP is and all that stuff. So a benefit as well. Next one is allowing superlatives in marketing. CMS now believes that the current restrictions regarding the use of superlatives are unnecessary. As per MA, organizations and Part B sponsors are already broadly prohibited from providing beneficiaries marketing and communication materials that are misleading, confusing, or material inaccurate. Although CMS is proposing to remove this, MA organizations and sponsors would still be required to ensure that all statements, including superlatives, including in marketing communications and materials, do not mislead, confuse, or provide material inaccurate information to current or potential beneficiaries. And CMS may request data, reports, and other documentation that supports the claims. Obviously, you weren't allowed to lie in your advertising before. And so why couldn't you say best? Or, it was a confusing, you could say highest rated plan in the area, or it's a 5-star rated plan in the area. But you couldn't use superlatives. Kind of wonky, as long as you're doing it right by the customer and you're not misleading them, you're not trying to confuse them or lie to them, then you're already being compliant. And so I think it's a move in the right direction overall. A few additional proposed changes, improvements to the star rating and quality measures. They're getting away from the health equity index. It was a complicated, new, weird thing to do with equity that was hard to actually measure and hard to implement. They're going back to this historical reward factor, which was the standard way of doing it. I think this is one of those things that was kind of twisting the screws on the carriers and dropping star ratings. If you look from 2021 to 2025, the star ratings dropped from, I think it was like 77 plans had 5-star ratings, or there were 77 5-star rated plans across the country. And now this year there's only 5. That's crazy. It's not like everybody just started doing things bad while we saw enrollment numbers continue to go up. If everybody was doing something bad where nobody's a 5-star plan anymore, then why are more and more people enrolling in the plans? It doesn't really make sense. But what does make sense is that cut down on the bonuses and things that the carriers and the plans were getting. And so we saw it, and we saw a lot of SARs this year. We saw a lot of plans, just go out of business this year. And so I think they're looking at that and seeing some of those things were detrimental to the overall market, considering over half of all people on Medicare are on a Medicare Advantage plan. Then, what do we want to destroy the program completely? I don't think that's the goal. And so what they're doing is moving back towards the historical reward factors. Hopefully what that means is we're going to see star ratings start to go up in the next couple of years. It's going to give us more 5-star opportunities for mid-year changes. It's also going to give plans a little bit more money to provide better benefits and kind of stabilize the market as we're seeing now. We're sending duplicate notices. I didn't really realize this, but for supplemental benefits, if a member wasn't using their supplemental benefits, the plans had to, they had to notify them halfway through the year. Oh, by the way, you've got these supplemental benefits that you're not using. It's duplicated. It doesn't, it costs a bunch of money. The clients don't read it. I know if you talk to your clients like mine, they would ask me something about the plan. Oh, well, that's in your annual notice of changes. They don't even read those a lot of times. Some do. But they get so much mail. It turns into noise, and they end up throwing so much of it away. Cost a bunch of money for the carriers. That's going to save them some money. Some of that can go back into plan benefits. I think that's good. Easing risk adjustments, restrictions. And so what this has to do is how they adjust for risk factors that a potential beneficiary in a certain plan in a certain area, what qualifies them for essentially additional pay from CMS to the plan to be able to take care of those risks. And so they're just easing up some of the restrictions that they had on those. It was having to do with the different lists that are associated with some of those risk restrictions. It's essentially getting it closer to the way fee-for-service claims work. So I think it's a positive. I think that's going to pump a little bit more money back into the MA market. I mean, like I said, we saw plans just completely leave the market overall. They either maybe cut back on the types of plans that they were offering. A lot of that has to do with the compensation that they were getting from the government. And so all positive things in my opinion, overall. Now, that's not everything that's in the 465-page document. So you can go read it yourself. Once again, this link is going to be there. Comment, add comments, talk about the positive, talk about the negatives. I mean, like I said, on the call recordings, I think that's still too strict of a overall rule in terms of how long you have to have those recordings. It makes it difficult on those individual agents. The big guys can handle it. The big call centers can handle all of that because they've got all the technology in place to do it. But what about the little guys that, are, just on their own? And so I think that absolutely is a big help for them, especially what we're seeing, from a lot of the plans cutting back on some call centers. Frankly, if they don't have the technology in place as an individual, then are they going to be able to be compliant with that rule? I think we should cut back on that. Scope appointment, getting, the 48 hours gone, being able to collect them at marketing or at educational events, being able to jump right into from an educational event into a marketing event. I think that's positive. Overall, I think it's positive. Tell me what you think about it. If you have any questions, shoot me an email and join our Facebook group at the Insurance Disruptors on Facebook. If you, like I said, shoot me an email. Would love to hear from you. If you have anything that I maybe missed, would love some input on that. But hey, if you found this useful, subscribe to the channel. I put videos out like this all the time. And I look forward to talking to you again. All right. Thanks, guys.